I came from the bottom where every step felt heavy, where tomorrow wasn't promised and progress looked like a rumor. And I learned early, if you don't upgrade yourself daily, the world would downgrade you without permission. See, improving 1% every day ain't flashy. It don't get applause. But it's how you build something that lasts when nobody's watching. I'm talking to you like family right now. Not as motivation, but as a reminder. You don't need a miracle. You need consistency. You need to wake up and ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that makes me sharper than yesterday? That's it. That's the game. People get caught chasing the finish line. They want the trophy before they put in the miles. But growth don't work like that. Growth is quiet. It's lonely. It's you choosing discipline over comfort when nobody's clapping. It's you reading when everybody's scrolling. It's you training when everybody's sleeping. That's the separation. I used to look at my life like a long race, not a sprint. Every setback was a lesson. Every loss was tuition. I wasn't trying to be perfect overnight. I was trying to be better than I was. 1% smarter, 1% stronger, 1% more focused. Stack that long enough, and you wake up unrecognizable to the old you. Understand this. Momentum is built, not found. You don't wait for motivation. You earn it by showing up. Some days you're gonna feel tired. Some days you're gonna feel overlooked. But that don't mean you stop. That mean you lean in. Because the work you put in on your worst days is what saves you on your best ones. A lot of people talk about wanting more, but they ain't willing to become more. You can't level up your life without leveling up your habits. The small choices you make every day, they're voting on the future you. Every excuse is a vote against yourself. Every disciplined action is a vote for the empire you're trying to build. And don't get it twisted, this ain't about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about intention. It's about ownership. You take responsibility for where you at and where you going. You stop blaming the environment and start mastering it. You play chess while others playing checkers with their time. I seen what happens when you stay patient and relentless. The compounding effect is real. 1% today turns into 10 tomorrow, then 100 before you realize it. That's how legacies are built. Brick by brick, day by day, no shortcuts. So if you feel stuck, good. That's pressure. Pressure creates diamonds if you don't fold. Stay in the fight. Stay curious. Stay hungry. Invest in yourself like you the greatest asset you got. Because you are. Remember this. You don't need to change your whole life today. You just need to win today. Improve 1%. Then do it again tomorrow. And again. And again. Eventually, the world gonna have to respect the growth they couldn't stop. That's marathon thinking. And if you stay committed to the process, I promise you won't just reach the destination. You'll become somebody worthy of it. Consistent 1% daily self-improvement is misunderstood because people are conditioned to respect explosions, not erosion. They look for breakthroughs, viral moments, overnight transformations, but real power moves silently. 1% sounds small enough to ignore, which is exactly why it works. It doesn't trigger resistance. It doesn't exhaust you mentally. It doesn't require permission, validation, or perfect conditions. It only requires honesty about where you are and courage to move slightly beyond it. When you commit to improving just 1% a day, you stop negotiating with your potential and start cooperating with it. That 1% might be 5 extra minutes of focus, 1 page of reading, 1 hard conversation you've been avoiding, 1 decision made with discipline instead of emotion. None of these look life-changing in isolation, but life is not lived in isolation. It is lived in accumulation. The math is simple, but the psychology is deep. 1% compounds because identity compounds. When you show up for yourself daily, even in small ways, you start to trust yourself. Self-trust changes behavior. Behavior changes outcomes. Outcomes reinforce identity. Identity then raises standards, and higher standards make 1% improvements more intentional and more precise. This loop is how ordinary people build extraordinary lives without burning out or pretending to be someone they are not. You are no longer chasing motivation because your system is doing the work. Motivation becomes a side effect, not the fuel. Daily improvement also sharpens awareness. You start noticing inefficiencies, distractions, emotional leaks, and wasted energy because you are paying attention to growth. You don't need to overhaul your whole personality. You just need to remove what is unnecessary and strengthen what already works. 1% is refinement. It is cutting excess. It is upgrading what you already own instead of chasing what you don't. Over time, this creates a quiet confidence. You stop comparing because you are too busy measuring yourself against yesterday. Progress becomes personal, not performative. Compounding also protects you during hard seasons. When life applies pressure, habits are what remain. If you've invested daily in your mind, your health, your skills, your relationships, you have reserves to draw from. 1% improvements act like insurance. You may not notice them when everything is easy, but when things get difficult, they prevent collapse. They keep you stable enough to keep moving. That stability is often the difference between people who survive setbacks and people who get defined by them. The long-term effect of 1% growth is leverage. Small improvements stacked over time create asymmetry between effort and reward. What once took massive effort becomes automatic. What once felt impossible becomes routine. Your baseline rises. You are no longer fighting to get started. You are refining execution. This is where massive growth appears to outsiders, even though it was built invisibly. People call it luck, timing, or talent, but it is really the delayed visibility of compounded effort. Consistency is what turns potential into proof. Talent without consistency expires. Intelligence without consistency stagnates. Passion without consistency burns out. 1% daily improvement is how you keep all three alive without destroying yourself. It respects the reality that you are human, that energy fluctuates, that discipline is built, not discovered. You don't need perfect days. You need honest ones. Showing up imperfectly, but repeatedly be showing up perfectly once. As time passes, 1% improvement stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity maintenance. You feel uncomfortable, not growing. Stagnation becomes louder than struggle. This is the quiet transformation people miss. You don't wake up one day successful. You wake up one day unable to tolerate the habits that used to hold you back. That shift is irreversible. It changes how you think, how you choose, how you recover, how you plan. Growth becomes your default response to challenge, not avoidance or complaint. Discipline and intentional habits matter more than motivation or quick results, because motivation is emotional, and emotions are temporary. Motivation is reactive. Discipline is proactive. Motivation waits for the right feeling. Discipline acts according to standards. When you rely on motivation, you hand control of your progress to your mood, your environment, and other people's behavior. When you rely on discipline, you take ownership regardless of circumstances. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. Intentional habits remove decision fatigue. You are not debating whether to do the work. The work is already decided. This conserves mental energy for creativity, strategy, and problem solving. People who depend on motivation burn energy just convincing themselves to start. People who build habits start automatically and use their energy to go deeper. This is why habits scale and motivation doesn't. Motivation gets tired. Habits get efficient. Quick results are seductive because they offer emotional payoff without identity change. The problem is that results you didn't earn with habits are results you can't maintain. Without the structure that created them, they collapse under pressure. Intentional habits build the internal capacity to sustain success. They train patience, emotional regulation, delayed gratification, and self-control. These traits don't just support one goal, they support every future goal. Discipline also creates clarity. When your actions are consistent, feedback becomes accurate. You can tell what works and what doesn't because variables are controlled. When your effort is sporadic, results are noisy and misleading. You don't know whether something failed because it was wrong or because you didn't commit long enough. Discipline gives you clean data. It lets you adjust intelligently instead of emotionally. Intentional habits shape character quietly. Every time you follow through, you reinforce the belief that your word matters, even when no one else is watching. This integrity builds confidence that doesn't need external validation. You stop needing hype because you have evidence. Confidence becomes calm instead of loud. You don't rush timelines because you trust your process. You don't panic at slow progress because you understand compounding. Motivation is often fueled by comparison, fear, or urgency. Discipline is fueled by values. Values outlast circumstances. When you build habits aligned with your values, you don't need external pressure to continue. Even on low energy days, you can act in alignment. This consistency is what makes growth predictable instead of chaotic. Predictable growth is scalable growth. Habits also protect you from self-sabotage. When emotions spike, habits keep you grounded. You don't make drastic decisions based on temporary feelings because your structure holds you steady. This is especially important as responsibilities increase. The higher the stakes, the more dangerous inconsistency becomes. Discipline is how you carry success without letting it distort you. Over time, intentional habits shift your relationship with effort. You stop seeing effort as suffering and start seeing it as maintenance. Like brushing your teeth or locking your door, discipline becomes normal. You are no longer negotiating with yourself. You are executing. This frees attention for vision instead of survival. Quick results fade. Discipline compounds. Motivation fluctuates. Habits stabilize. One gives you dopamine, the other gives you direction. People who build their lives on discipline don't look exciting at first, but they become impossible to ignore over time because their progress is cumulative and resilient and self-reinforcing and quiet and undeniable.